Welcome to Mindset Mondays, the bite-sized podcast designed to build a happier, healthier headspace. Think of it as a learning snack for your morning commute to set your week up right. I'm Mark Holloway, and in today's episode, we're talking about something we all experience, but rarely talk about honestly. Fear. Not the fear of spiders, snakes, or horror movies. I'm talking about the quieter kind of fear. The fear that shows up when you consider starting a business. The fear when you think about changing careers. The fear before speaking up in a meeting. The fear of publishing your work, sharing your ideas, asking someone out, or walking away from something that no longer serves you. It's the fear that whispers, what if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I'm not good enough? But here's the paradox. Very often the things we fear doing most are the things that move our lives forward the most. In fact, fear can act like a compass, and if we learn to read it correctly, it often points directly towards growth. First, it's important to understand that fear itself is not the enemy. Fear is ancient. It evolved to keep us alive. Our brains are wired to avoid uncertainty, risk, and potential social rejection because historically, those things could literally threaten survival. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from your tribe could mean death, so your brain developed a powerful alarm system. But here's the problem. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a life-threatening risk and a growth opportunity. To your brain, speaking on stage, launching a business, posting your ideas online can trigger the same fear response as facing physical danger. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, your mind fills with worst-case scenarios. The brain is simply trying to protect you. But protection and progress rarely happen in the same place. There's a well-known idea in psychology often referred to as the comfort zone model. Inside the comfort zone, things feel safe and predictable. But growth doesn't happen there. Just outside that zone is what researchers call the learning zone. This is where discomfort exists, where new skills develop, where identity expands, where your life changes. And outside of that, the panic zone, real overwhelm. The key insight is that growth lives right at the edge of discomfort, not terror, but discomfort, that nervous feeling before doing something meaningful. There's a famous story about the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, who wrote extensively about anxiety and human potential. He believed anxiety wasn't simply a problem. He called it the dizziness of freedom. In other words, when we stand before possibility, the possibility of becoming something more, we feel anxiety. Because freedom is scary. It means responsibility. It means uncertainty. It means we might fail. But Kierkegaard argued something profound. The presence of anxiety often signals that we are standing at the edge of growth. Modern thinkers echo this idea. Author Tim Ferriss once wrote a simple but powerful observation. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. Not always, but surprisingly often. Think about your own life for a moment. What have been your biggest moments of growth? Starting something new, leaving something familiar, taking a risk, speaking up, trying when you weren't sure you'd succeed? These moments almost always came with fear. Fear isn't necessarily a stop sign. Sometimes it's a signpost. There's fascinating research around how fear diminishes through action. Psychologists studying exposure therapy have found something important. Avoidance makes fear grow. Exposure makes fear shrink. Every time you avoid something that scares you, your brain learns that situation must be dangerous. But when you face it, even imperfectly, your brain learns something else. Maybe this isn't as threatening as I thought. And the fear begins to reduce, not instantly, but gradually. And remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's repeated exposure to it. Consider entrepreneurs. Starting a business is terrifying. You face uncertainty, financial risk, criticism, and the possibility of failure. But interestingly, studies of entrepreneurs consistently show something surprising. Successful founders aren't necessarily less afraid. They simply act despite the fear. They interpret fear differently. Instead of thinking fear means stop, they think fear means this might matter. Many religious traditions echo the same idea. In the Hindu scripture Bhagavad Gita, one of the central teachings is about acting according to one's duty or purpose, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. In Christianity, courage is often framed as faith in action, and in Buddhism, much of the spiritual path involves sitting with discomfort rather than running from it. Across cultures and centuries, the message is remarkably similar. Growth requires stepping beyond comfort. Now here's an even deeper issue. Fear itself isn't what holds people back long term. Avoidance is. When we repeatedly avoid what scares us, something subtle happens. Our world shrinks. We start saying, I'm not the type of person who, or I could never do that, or that's not for people like me. And gradually, our potential narrows. But when we lean into fear, even slightly, our world expands. Here's a practical mindset shift you can start using immediately. Use fear as a compass. Instead of asking, what feels comfortable, start asking, what feels slightly scary but meaningful. Fear becomes a compass rather than a barrier. Try this exercise. Take a moment and think about something you've been avoiding. Maybe it's starting that project, sending that email, having a difficult conversation, applying for the opportunity, sharing your ideas publicly. And then ask yourself, if fear wasn't part of the equation, would this move my life forward? If the answer is yes, you've probably found something important. You don't have to leap into it, but take one small step toward it. Not the whole staircase, just the next step, because courage grows through action, not through thinking. There's a useful rule some people use when making decisions. If something scares you and excites you, pay attention. That combination often means you're standing near an opportunity for growth. Fear alone might signal danger, but fear plus excitement, that's often the edge of possibility. Imagine looking back at your life decades from now. Most people don't regret the things they tried. They regret the things they didn't try, the conversations they avoided, the ideas they never shared, the risks they never took. Fear will always be present, but it doesn't have to be the thing that decides your future. Instead, it can be something else. A guide, a signal, a compass pointing toward the life you're capable of building. So this week, notice where fear shows up in your life. Not the fear of danger, but the fear of growth. And when you see it, don't run from it. Pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this fear pointing me somewhere important? Because often, the life you want is hiding just on the other side of the thing you're most afraid to try. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.